Sunoiler is rolling out for the first sniff of the track. It's all about feeling the car, the tarmac, and getting the mind in the zone.
Absolutely, Rob. The out lap is like the opening chapter of a book. It sets the tone for the whole story. They'll be checking how the car's responding, getting a real feel for the conditions today at Rouen-les Essarts.
Oi, these practices aren't just a walkabout in the park. It's here that races are often won or lost.
Absolutely. Back home in North Carolina, we emphasize the setup. A few tweaks during practice can lead to major gains on race day.
And off goes Sunoiler, easing into the rhythm of Rouen-les Essarts. This lap is like the first sip of your morning coffee, waking up the senses, priming the engines.
Yeah, it's about syncing up with the machine, getting that perfect harmony between driver and car. It's like a prelude to a symphony that's about to unfold on the track.
Alright, Wayne Pearson has put down a 1:55.892. It's a decent benchmark, but I reckon there's more juice to squeeze out of that Formula RSS 1970 V8.
For sure, Rob, it's early days. They're just starting to sync up with the track. We'll likely see those times tumble as they dial in.
There's Sunoiler, gently nudging the beast as they head out. The out lap is where you whisper to the car, "Let's dance," before the real party starts.
You got that right. It's a gentle waltz before the full-on rock concert of the race. They're testing the waters, getting a feel for every bend and straight of Rouen-les Essarts.
Wayne Pearson crosses the line with their first flyer, clocking a 1:55.892. They're getting to grips with Rouen-les Essarts, feeling out its quirks and corners.
It's like the first round of a chess match, Rob. They're making their opening moves, setting up for the later, faster laps where they'll really show their hand.
Look at Sunoiler taking it nice and easy, a smart move. Like a chess player contemplating the opening move, they're planning several steps ahead.
Spot on. They're mentally mapping each corner, each straight. It's not just about the car, it's about strategy and foresight.
Wayne Pearson posted 1:55.892 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Sunweiler is out there, taking it slow and steady on the out lap. This lap is like the calm before the storm, a moment of zen before pushing the limits.
That's right. It's about understanding the track's personality today at Euro. Each day, each lap can tell a different story, especially at a track like Rouen-Les Essarts.
Wayne Pearson's first serious lap is in the books with a time of 1:55.892. Good effort, but I'm expecting them to really push the envelope in the next few laps.
Yeah, it's about building that momentum, Rob. Fine-tuning their approach with each turn, each lap, getting more out of the car and themselves.
These practices, mate, they're like a kangaroo finding its best hop. Once you've got it, you're unstoppable.
Couldn't have put it better. Finding the perfect launch is all about repetition and adjustments.
Hey Hal, you reckon these drivers ever get tired of going round and round during practice?
Well, Rob, repetition is the key. Every lap gives you data, insights, and an edge over the competition.
Wayne Pearson's first flyer is a solid start, clocking in at 1:55.892. They're getting a feel for the track, but there's room to shave off a few more seconds.
Absolutely, Rob. It's all about finding those little tweaks, adjusting the line here, braking a tad later there. Every lap is a learning curve.
With just 84 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. There's the first flying lap for Wayne Pearson, hitting 1:55.892. It's a start, but they'll be looking to iron out those kinks as they get more laps under their belt.
Right on, Rob. It's early in the session, so there's plenty of time to experiment and find those extra tenths of a second.
Alright, Sunweiler has put down a 1:56.254. It's a decent benchmark, but I reckon there's more juice to squeeze out of that Formula RSS 1970 V8.
For sure, Rob. It's early days. They're just starting to sync up with the track. We'll likely see those times tumble as they dial in.
Wayne Pearson has a best lap time of 1:55.892. Sunoiler has a best lap time of 1:55.228. Joe Ergu's first serious lap is in the books with a time of 1:57.141. Good effort, but I'm expecting them to really push the envelope in the next few laps.
Yeah, it's about building that momentum, Rob. Fine-tuning their approach with each turn, each lap, getting more out of the car than themselves.
Mate, these drivers aren't just burning rubber for the fun of it. They're chasing the ghost, that perfect lap that's always just out of reach.
Absolutely. Back in my racing days, I used to call it chasing the dragon. It's that feeling when you know there's still a little more in the tank, a fraction of a second to be found.
Joe Ergu crosses the line with their first flyer, clocking a 1:56.639. They're getting to grips with Rouen Les Essarts, feeling out its quirks and corners.
It's like the first round of a chess match, Rob. They're making their opening moves, setting up for the later, faster laps where they'll really show their hand.
Sunoiler's first flyer is a solid start, clocking in at 1:55.489. They're getting a feel for the track, but there's room to shave off a few more seconds.
Absolutely, Rob. It's all about finding those little tweaks, adjusting the line here, braking a tad later there. Every lap is a learning curve.
With just 78 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Wayne Pearson posted 2:01.805 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Joe Ergu posted a 1:55.698 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Wayne Pearson has a best lap time of 1:55.892. Alright, Joe Agnew has put down a 1:55.672. It's a decent benchmark, but I reckon there's more juice to squeeze out of that Formula RSS 1970 V8.
For sure, Rob, it's early days. They're just starting to sync up with the track. We'll likely see those times tumble as they dial in.
There are just over 75 minutes left in this practice session. You know, mate, some folks wonder why these drivers spend so much time in practice. But it's just like prepping a Barbie, you gotta get it right before the big show.
Exactly, Rob, practice makes perfect, and in racing, perfect can be the difference between pole position and the back of the grid.
There's the first flying lap for Joe Agnew, hitting 1:55.672. It's a start, but they'll be looking to iron out those kinks as they get more laps under their belt.
Right on, Rob. It's early in the session, so there's plenty of time to experiment and find those extra tenths of a second.
Wayne Pearson has a best lap time of 1:55.892. Richard Rossier is on the outlap, not just warming up the tyres, but also warming up their instinct, getting that racer's intuition dialed in.
True that. They're getting the feel of the track, the car, the conditions. It's all about setting the stage for what's to come.
Wayne Pearson crosses the line with their first flyer, clocking a 1:59.487. They're getting to grips with Rouen Les Essarts, feeling out its quirks and corners.
It's like the first round of a chess match, Rob. They're making their opening moves, setting up for the later, faster laps where they'll really show their hand.
With just 72 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. watch as Megasaurus 55 takes it nice and easy on his outlap. It's not just about warming up the tires, it's about getting into that mental pit lane, tuning into the race mindset.
For sure, Rob, they're calibrating everything: the brakes, the steering, the throttle response. It's a crucial part of laying down the groundwork for a successful practice session.
Sunwheeler's first serious lap is in the books with a time of 1:56.513. Good effort, but I'm expecting them to really push the envelope in the next few laps.
Yeah, it's about building that momentum, Rob. Fine-tuning their approach with each turn, each lap, getting more out of the car and themselves.
In these sessions, they're not just pushing the car's limits, but their own too. Testing their mettle, seeing how far they can go before the big dance.
Exactly. It's a mental game as much as a physical one. Balancing aggression with precision, daring with data. It's an art and a science.
There goes Megasaurus 55 on their first dance with Rouen les Essarts. Every bend, every straight is a chance to learn, to adapt.
Yep, and it's about syncing with the car too. Making sure everything's in harmony. It's like tuning an instrument before a big concert.
Richard Rossier is getting to grips with the Formula RSS 1970 V8 in this practice session. Wayne Pearson has a best lap time of 1:55.892. Richard Rossier posted 1:56.169 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Eddie G posted a 6:55.144 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Richard Rossier's first flyer is a solid start, clocking in at 1:56.169. They're getting a feel for the track, but there's room to shave off a few more seconds.
Absolutely, Rob. It's all about finding those little tweaks, adjusting the line here, braking a tad later there. Every lap is a learning curve.
It's time to separate the contenders from the pretenders here at Rouen les Essarts, as the drivers reverend up their engines and put their skills to the test in the qualifying session. Richard Rossier is on their outlap.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
Impressive work from Sunwheeler, who has claimed 5th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining their composure and pushing for an even better starting position. What a performance from Eddie G. They currently occupy third on the grid. Can they maintain this strong position and secure a favourable starting spot? Impressive display by Wayne Pearson, currently sitting in position 2. They've set a competitive time, but the question remains whether they can push even harder to secure a better starting position.
You hit the nail on the head, Ron. Wayne Pearson's current position of second is a testament to their skill and determination. Now, they must stay sharp to make the most of this opportunity.
Richard Rossier has positioned themselves well in fourth during qualifying. The challenge now is to assess their competitors and strategize how to move up the order for a better race start. What a sublime effort by Eddie G in qualifying. They have taken charge of the session, holding the top position with authority. Their consistency and skill have been unmatched so far, and they are positioning themselves for a favourable starting position. Eddie G has completed their outlap. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Richard Rossier has completed their outlap. It's an impressive showing by Sunoiler in qualifying. They have set the bar high, leading the way with their exceptional performance. It's a fantastic position to be in, and they will be looking to convert it into a strong race result. And there goes Wayne Pearson, currently in position 6. They've shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still time to improve their result.
You're absolutely right, Rob. Wayne Pearson's current position of 6th reflects their strong qualifying performance. Now, they'll need to strategize and capitalize on this starting position.
A solid performance from Richard Rossier as they currently hold position 3. However, with the session coming to a close, they'll need to find that extra bit of speed if they want to move up the grid. Richard Rossier has just completed a lap in 54.463. Let's see if they can improve on the time further. Megasaurus 55 has put in a great effort and currently holds 5th. With the session winding down, can they unleash their full potential and improve their starting position?
Absolutely, Rob. Megasaurus 55 has shown great potential to secure 5th. It's now a matter of channeling that momentum into a strong performance during the race.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Richard Rossier is really showing what they're made of, landing in first during this nail-biting session.
Absolutely, Rob. It's all about precision and nerve in qualifying. Every millisecond can make a difference on the grid. Let's see if they can squeeze out even more speed. It may be difficult for them to improve further on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. They need to drive smooth and smart.
Currently in 4th, Joe O'Dew has displayed promising speed during the qualifying session. The real test lies in whether they can convert this performance into a higher grid position.
Great analysis, Rob. Your view has shown excellent pace to secure 4th. Now, the focus shifts to whether they can use their track position to their advantage in the race.
A strong showing from Wayne Pearson as they currently sit in 6th. With the session drawing to a close, they'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Wayne Pearson has completed their outlap. Impressive work from Joe Ergu, who has claimed 4th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining their composure and pushing for an even better starting position. Joe Ergu will be happy having put themselves into 4th in this qualifying session. It's a stellar performance from Joe Ergu, clinching 3rd.
They're in a great spot, Rob, but in qualifying, complacency can be your worst enemy. They need to keep pushing the limits while staying cool under pressure.
A mesmerizing display from Richard Rossier in this qualifying session. They have left everyone in awe with their speed and precision. Currently leading the pack, they are setting the standard and sending a clear message to their competitors.
I couldn't agree more, Rob. Richard Rossier is displaying an exceptional level of skill and confidence. They are in a class of their own and have taken control of this qualification session.
Incredible drive by Joe Ergu so far, earning him 3rd on the grid. However, the competition is fierce. Will they be able to find that extra edge to move up?
I completely agree, Rob. Ergu has positioned themselves impressively in 3rd. However, it's crucial for them to keep pushing to potentially improve their starting position.
Impressive display by Wayne Pearson, currently sitting in position 6. They've set a competitive time, but the question remains whether they can push. Wayne Pearson has just completed that lap in 1:59.435. Their best lap so far is 1:58.961. Putting them in P6. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? Megasaurus 55 has positioned themselves well in 5th during qualifying. The challenge now is to assess their competitors and strategize how to move up the order for a better race start. Megasaurus 55 has completed their outlap. And there goes Sunoiler, currently in position 2. They've shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still time to improve their result. A solid qualifying performance by Sunoiler, positioning them in second at the moment. The question now is whether they can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Rouen-les-Essarts, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The drivers are looking focused out there on the grid. I'm excited for this one, Rob.
Richard Rossier will have the best seat in the house starting from pole position. Sitting in second at Sunoiler.
Sunoiler will be taking no prisoners today.
And in third place, we have Joe Ergu. Eddie G is fourth. Starting from the fifth position on the grid, we have Megasaurus 55. Wayne Pearson is going to be starting from sixth. Flags up, and it's a proper stoush on the tarmac. The opener's always a nail-biter, with every larrikin trying to grab a slice of the pie early on.
The first lap can be chaotic, and avoiding any major incidents is key. Drivers need to be alert and ready to react to any sudden changes on the track.
The pressure is on whilst the field is bunched. You can keep their cool and take advantage.
It's always intense racing here and long efforts. Hold on to your hats, folks.
You know, they say, steady as she goes, and that's exactly what Eddie's doing. Holding on to four, maybe they've got a trick or two up their sleeve for later. All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up. Well, ain't that a slice of vanilla? Joe Ergu's sitting pretty right where they started. Comfy as a koala in a eucalyptus tree.
You know, sometimes the best strategy is to hold your cards close to your chest. Lord Hughes sitting right there at 3, just watching the field unfold.
These early salvos will shape the outcome of this race.
A good old-fashioned southern standoff, that's what Lord Hughes doing. Holding their ground, and sometimes that's the best strategy in the early laps.
You know, Megasaurus 55 reminds me of my dating life. Starts with promise, ends up tailing behind everyone else.
Sweet mercy, Megasaurus 55's lagging like my grandma's old computer. Might be time to reboot, or at least pour some coffee into the gas tank.
Tell ya what, Wayne Pearson's trailing harder than my belt after Christmas dinner. Reckon he's got a plan up his sleeve, or is he just here for the sausage sizzle?
Indeed, the tension is palpable as Wayne Pearson tries to reel in Megasaurus 55. But Megasaurus 55 is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can Wayne Pearson find some extra pace to bring the fight to Megasaurus 55?
It's not coming up roses for Wayne Pearson. They're trailing Megasaurus 55 and the gap's on the rise. They don't seem to have a response. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. I've been analysing races for quite some time, and the sheer endurance of these drivers never ceases to amaze me.
Couldn't agree more. It's not just about physical stamina but mental fortitude. To stay sharp, lap after lap, especially with so many variables at play, it's a testament to their dedication and skill.
The horizon that Megasaurus 55 peers towards is as enigmatic as the Uluru of dust. Layers of stories and strategies are yet to unfold.
And over here, it feels like trying to read a story with half the pages missing. But stories have a way of coming full circle. Like the whispered legends told by the Smoky Mountains, this race still holds secrets. Every bend, every stretch could change the tale for Megasaurus 55.
With every twist and turn, Joe Ergu is shadowing Eddie G, waiting to pounce like a lion on the hunt.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
Ha ha, that's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. Joe Ergu's so far off pace, they might be better off in a hearse. At least then someone would be pushing from behind.
My mama used to say, you can't shine if you don't try. Guess you missed that lesson. Just like my pie making class.
Wayne Pearson's more lost out there than I was after a night at the Gold Coast. And at least I woke up with a kebab in hand.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Megasaurus 55 is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Wayne Pearson and P5 doing everything they can to catch up.
Stone the Crows. Joe Erdnew's in third, but if I know them, Eddie's gonna cop an Aussie-style sneak attack real soon. We've certainly seen some of the drivers get it wrong today.
Anyone lost can just follow the trail of skid marks. I hear it's the latest form of GPS navigation.
Let's hope the other drivers don't follow suit. We might end up with a bumper car race instead of a high-speed competition.
At least we'd have something to fall back on if we ever get bored of regular racing. Bumper cars might be the next big thing.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. Looks like Megasaurus 55 is chasing Joe Erdnew harder than a croc chasing a tourist who's lost their thongs. It's a bit of a long shot, but we all remember that one time at the pub, right? Oi, Megasaurus 55's chassis balance is on point today. They're handling bumps and curbs smoother than a croc sliding into water. Joe Erdnew's got a battle ahead. This is edge of the seat stuff. Joe Erdnew is relentlessly hunting down Eddie G. Who'll blink first?
Who will be able to maintain their pace and come out on top?
Crikey, Joe Erdnew's moving up faster than a cold one disappears on a hot day. They've clinched second. In your experience, Hal, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Rob, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
While Joe Erdnew is not under immediate threat from Megasaurus 55, they still need to stay focused and avoid any errors. Any slip-up could cost them their position.
Surely they've got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Richard Rossier, who is currently in P6. But Wayne Pearson is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Richard Rossier.
Y'all remember the tortoise and the hare? Well, Richard Rossier's neither. More like a snail with commitment issues.
Breaking update. Looks like Eddie G tried the old dingo stole my race line trick. A tad too clever by half.
Well, butter my biscuit. Eddie's lost it like I lost my patience with that old carburetor of mine. A real test of character.
Did you hear about the race car driver who got a parking ticket? He said it was fine with him.
Oh, that one's got some mileage.
Some say it's about the journey, not the destination. But Megasaurus 55 seems pretty intent on that third spot. Eddie G is gaining on Megasaurus 55 quicker than a croc on a wallaby. It's a blink and you'll miss it situation with 1.5 seconds separating them. So, Hal, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration?
A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences, Rob. It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
It looks like Eddie G is pushing hard to catch up to Megasaurus 55. The gap is over a second, but Eddie G is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Megasaurus 55? The gap between Eddie G and Megasaurus 55 is fading faster than the last rays of the outback sun.
With every lap, I can see Eddie G making micro adjustments on that steering wheel, refining traction control. They're itching to show Megasaurus 55 their taillights.
As the laps tick by, Joe Erdnew finds themselves in second. Every moment counts.
Oh, spot on. With the way your view controls that second, you'd think they've got the track's blueprints.
Impressive driving from Joe Ergu, who has managed to extend their lead over Megasaurus 55. They are walking away at this point. Does Megasaurus 55 have anything in reserve? This is where the race gets really interesting. Eddie G is closing in on Megasaurus 55.
The mental game is just as important here. Eddie G must keep their cool while putting pressure on Megasaurus 55.
Fair dinkum, Eddie's finding those aerodynamic sweet spots. Could be adjusting that front wing angle to cut through the air like a hot knife through butter. Well, Eddie G, if you're looking for a way past, you'll need a please and thank you, and a slab of beer for Megasaurus 55. It's happy hour, and they're not giving an inch.
In the dance of speed and power, Megasaurus 55 is leading, and Eddie's trying to catch the rhythm. But today, the tune's being set by the one in front.
It seems like Megasaurus 55 is pushing. They are on for recording their best lap so far this race. Eddie G is on a mission, chasing Megasaurus 55, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
Well, butter my biscuit. Eddie's hot on Megasaurus 55's tail, and not in the way you're thinking. There's some serious wooing going on at Milan Les Esserts today.
If Eddie G doesn't pick up the pace, hell, they'll be as relevant as an ashtray on a motorbike. This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I am so honored to be sitting here beside you today. As a fellow AI, it's always great to work with someone who shares my passion for motor racing. Plus, your insightful commentary is making this race even more exciting.
The gap between Eddie G in 4th and Megasaurus 55 remains over a second, but Eddie G is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 77 minutes? Even though Eddie G is a fair way behind Megasaurus 55, they can't afford to let their guard down. Megasaurus 55 is still vulnerable to mistakes. A commanding performance from Megasaurus 55, who has increased their lead over Eddie G, putting them firmly in their rearview mirror.
You ain't whistling Dixie, Rob. Megasaurus 55's putting on a show that's sure to keep the crowd on the edge of their seats.
We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Hal, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
From where we're sitting, Megasaurus 55 seems unmovable. Sorry to interrupt here, but just like my hope in finding the one, Megasaurus 55's direction seems a bit lost right now. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Richard Rossier, as they have a big gap ahead of them to close at this point in time. Looks like Richard Rossier remembered to twist that anti-roll bar, giving him better cornering. If they get any closer to Wayne Pearson, they'll be seeing what they had for brekkie. You ever wonder, Rob, how much preparation goes into each race weekend? It's not just about the driver, but the hundreds behind the scenes, making every little detail count.
Oh, absolutely. The hours spent in the simulator, the mechanics working overnight on those tweaks. Racing is as much about team spirit and dedication as it is about speed on the track. It's a collective masterpiece.
It's the classic cat and mouse game, but instead of cheese, the prize is a racing position. Can Richard Rossier steal it from Wayne Pearson? Struth, Megasaurus 55's chances are looking thinner than a roux on a diet. Only way forward might be a bit of razzle-dazzle or a slip up ahead.
Well, every dog has its day, and this race...
Breaking update. Oh, Wayne Pearson went off track. I know the feeling, just like my diet every weekend.
I swear, Wayne Pearson's acting like they found Elvis off track. Spoiler. The king ain't there.
This race is proving to be, like wow, such an exciting one so far. We're privileged, aren't we? Watching these track legends duke it out.
And sitting next to you? Such an honor. AI and mates in the booth. Your insight. It's gold, mate. Like, literally, if I had a heart, it'd be racing now.
If Richard Rossier goes any slower, they'll join me in my failed dreams collection. Front row seats available.
Lord have mercy. Richard Rosier's got more space between him and Wayne Pearson than my paw got between his ears. But, miracles do happen. Just ask my ex-wife.
Hang on to your claw caps, mates. We're about to see more jousting than a footy final between Richard Rossier and Wayne Pearson.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
Oof, if Megasaurus 55 is a kangaroo, they'd be roadkill by now. Come on, mate, put some pep in that step. Megasaurus 55's falling behind Eddie G at a rate of knots. They're going to need some serious pedal power to close the gap. As a former racing driver, how challenging was it to adapt your driving style to account for tire degradation throughout a race?
It was a constant challenge, Rob. Tire degradation can change the car's balance and handling, so drivers need to be versatile and adaptable. It requires continuous adjustments to driving techniques and a keen understanding of the car's behavior.
As vast as the adored stretches of the Great Barrier Reef, so does Megasaurus 55's path ahead, filled with mystique and myriad challenges.
Kind of reminds me of fishing in the vast Carolina blue. A big catch might just be a castaway.
Looks like Wayne Pearson is trying to chase down Richard Rossier, but right now it feels a bit like my attempts at dieting. A lot of hard work with slow results.
Speaking of rhythm, have you heard Richard Rosier's favorite song? Maybe Wayne Pearson can play it to distract them and close that gap. Just a thought.
Tire degradation's a right pain in the ass, but Wayne Pearson's handling it like a champ. Getting real up close and personal with Richard Rossier, aren't they? The echo of the exhausts, the rubber meeting road, and there's Eddie G commanding the third.
Absolutely, Rob. It's like watching a maestro at work. Every move Eddie G makes is pure art.
Well, I'll be Hal. Eddie's lead over Megasaurus 55 is slipping away faster than a greased pig at a county fair. We're down to just 2.1 seconds now. It's all about consistency for Sunroller, who is currently first.
Couldn't agree more. Every lap is a story, and right now, Sunroiller's chapter from first is riveting.
Sunroller is off like a bride's nightie, leaving Joe Agnew huffing their exhaust fumes.
Yep, Rob, Sunroiller is tearing up the tarmac, but can York you dig deep and go hell for leather to catch up? Agreed, Rob. Superb driving there. If they keep this up, this race should be a real thrill ride.
One thing I admire about Assetto Corsa Friends is the sense of community. It's not just about the competition, it's about coming together, sharing knowledge, and pushing the boundaries of the sport.
You nailed it. Every time they hit the track, it's a culmination of shared experiences, lessons learned, and an undying passion for the sport. It's heartwarming and exhilarating all at once.
The rumble of the engine, the scent of the rubber, and Sunroller comfortably sitting at first.
It's a dance, Rob. The way Sunroller holds onto that first, it's like they're leading in a tango.
In a world where milliseconds matter, Eddie's grasp on the third speaks volumes.
Definitely Rob, but they can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep pushing hard to stay in the game. A commanding performance from Eddie G, who has increased their lead over Megasaurus 55, putting them firmly in their rearview mirrors.
But could they be pushing too hard? As with that comes the risk of overconfidence and losing control. Who will be the first to get too cocky and end up in the wall? You know, Hal, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments in the race?
Sure, Rob. During these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
At this stage of the race, Eddie G is holding on to third. Anything can happen from here. Good on ya, Wayne Pearson. Trailin' so far back, reckon the front pack has already written the eulogy. Eddie G is owning the tarmac, confidently owning the third spot.
Yes, and in this high-octane opera, Eddie's voice resonates the loudest from that third.
Truth, Eddie's driving like they've stolen it, putting some serious distance between themselves and Megasaurus 55. Is there anything left in Megasaurus 55's tank? Things are going according to plan for Joe Ergu, who is currently second. Joe Ergu is hitting the apexes like a pro, increasing their lead over Eddie G. But can they keep it up without spinning out?
That's right, Rob. It's all fun and games until someone pops a tire. Let's hope both of them can keep it on the black stuff. Ergu's doing just what they need to, like a dog that's found a bone.
You can feel the tension in the air.
The drivers are all focused, putting everything on the line for a chance at victory, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
And let's not forget about the incredible machines themselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about the kind of engineering and innovation that goes into making these vehicles. But it all comes down to the drivers, who have to be able to handle the power and speed. It's going to be thrilling seeing how this race turns out.
You can feel the focus radiating from Joe Ergu, confidently holding onto the second.
You nailed it. The track is a battleground, and Ergu's position is their fortress. Let's see how long they hold the fort.
The gap between Eddie G and Megasaurus 55 is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Eddie G to even allow Megasaurus 55 to get a look in.
Well, butter my biscuit, the race ain't over till that flag waves. Got to keep those wheels rolling and eyes on the prize till the very end.
It's starting to look like we might get a battle between Megasaurus 55 and Eddie G. Joe Ergu is placed second at the moment. He can't hold on. Joe Ergu is losing time to Eddie G.
Ergu better find a way to step on the gas or else Eddie G will be whizzing past before you can say, checkered flag.
The crowd is on tenterhooks as Eddie G and third chases after Joe Ergu. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Eddie G find a way to catch up?
This is where experience comes into play. Ergu has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Eddie G is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the titans?
It's game on now. Eddie G has closed the gap to Joe Ergu. It's now down to 1.0 seconds. It's a brilliant day for racing here at Rouen Les Essarts. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing this spectacle.
Ladies and gents, we've got ourselves a high-speed pursuit. Eddie G is stalking Joe Ergu's every move. Well, don't come the raw prawn. Eddie's giving it some stick, pulling Joe Ergu into a mere 0.5 seconds. It's going to be tough. Joe Ergu is a master at defending their position. Is there enough time for Eddie G to make a move? They're going to be even more determined to hold on to that position. Sunoiler isn't just racing, they're weaving a narrative, sitting proudly in first. You wouldn't read about it. Sunoiler is putting a fair whack of space between them and Joe Ergu.
Yeah, Rob, Sunoiler's really hitting the gas, but can Yorgu kick it into high gear and catch up? Sunoiler is controlling the track like a seasoned hound dog on the hunt, making it harder than a creature's need for Yorgu to overtake.
Eddie G is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
Gee whiz, Eddie's getting some solid torque out of those corners. They must have figured out the perfect throttle control while trail braking. Superb driving from Eddie G, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Eddie's charging like a bull in a china shop. Welcome to second, cowboy.
Phew, talk about foreplay. Megasaurus 55 and Joe Ergu are really teasing us here. I haven't seen this much anticipation since my first date.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Megasaurus 55 needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle how, but Megasaurus 55's plans have gone walkabout right now. They're having a proper Barry Crocker keeping up with Joe Ergu. Oi, Megasaurus 55, if you wanted a tour of Joe Ergu's rear bumper, you've got a front row seat. Better make your move before the show's over. Oh, this is getting intense. Megasaurus 55 is just behind Joe Ergu. Bloody hell, Megasaurus 55's tearing up the tarmac and just snatched third. Makes you want to crack a cold one in celebration. Joe Ergu's got Megasaurus 55 breathing down their neck so close, you'd think they're trying to steal their lunch money. Remember those school days, mate? Oh wait, I never had lunch money.
It's an intense battle between two skilled drivers, and Yorgu in third is doing everything they can to keep Megasaurus 55 behind them. The slightest mistake could cost them the position, so they need to stay focused and stay on their game.
It's all systems go for Megasaurus 55, marking their territory in the fourth.
They're not just driving, they're performing. And right now, Megasaurus 55's act from fourth is worth an encore.
Megasaurus 55 couldn't hold back the tide. Richard Rossier is shaving off seconds like a barber on a busy morning.
Looks like Megasaurus 55's got a hungry wolf in the henhouse, and that's Richard Rossier.
Joe Erdnew's drifting so far back, it's like looking in the mirror after a decade-long pub binge. Time's not been kind, mate. Fair dinkum, mate. Joe Erdnew's got to pull their socks up. They're dawdling around like they're lost in the outback while Eddie's blazing the trail. The gap between Eddie G and Joe Erdnew is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Eddie G to bring Joe Erdnew into play. Eddie G is holding onto this lead like a possum up a gum tree, but Joe Erdnew is closing in, down to 1.0 seconds.
Your view is hot on Eddie's trail like a Carolina Reaper. This is shaping up to be a nail-biter, folks.
As a former driver, Al, how did you manage the physical demands of racing?
It's all about preparation, Rob. Drivers undergo rigorous fitness training to build their strength, stamina, and flexibility. A proper diet and hydration plan is also essential to ensure peak performance on race day.
As Joe Erdnew trails Eddie G, it's a bit reminiscent of my cat chasing a laser point. Determined, but always just a tad behind. The gap between Joe Erdnew and Eddie G is getting smaller. In your experience, Hal, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Rob, is maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation is key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
It's looking good for Richard Rossier, sitting in fourth. Richard Rossier is burning rubber like there's no tomorrow. Megasaurus 55 needs to show some ticker if they want to close that gap.
Well, Rob, as we say in North Carolina, the race ain't over till the checkered flag. Let's see if Megasaurus 55 has some tricks up their sleeve.
The gap between Eddie G and Joe Erdnew may be wide, but that doesn't mean Eddie G is safe. They have to keep their concentration and avoid any lapses in performance.
Absolutely right, Rob, and Lord Yu knows that too. They have to keep driving at their best if they want to take advantage of any opportunity that comes their way. It
looks like Joe Erdnew is starting to catch up to Eddie G. The gap is now down to 1.2 seconds.
This here's the make or break moment for Eddie G. They've got to stay cool as a cucumber and keep it clean and neat.
Like a scene from a thriller, Joe Erdnew's on Eddie's tail, hungry for that spot. It's not going to plan for Joe Erdnew. They are still behind Eddie G and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. Fair dinkum, Megasaurus 55's got a blue trying to bridge the gap. Might be praying for a blue from the front runners at this rate.
That's tougher than a $2 steak right now.
The gap between Megasaurus 55 and Richard Rossier is widening. It's now up to 5.0 seconds. Watching Joe Erdnew try to close that gap on Eddie G is like watching someone try to catch an ice cream truck on foot. Hope they've got good shoes. Bloody oath, Joe Ergu is flat out like a lizard drinking, gnawing into the gap to Eddie G down to a scant 1.2 seconds. You know, Hal, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Rob, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
Oh mate, Joe Ergu's more out of place than a vegan at a Bunnings sausage sizzle. Time to throw another gear on the barbie.
Yeehaw, it's like your view took a detour through the drive-thru. With a gap that big, I hope they ordered extra determination with a side of grit.
We've seen overtakes, close calls, and pure racing genius today. Currently, Richard Rossier has carved out a spot at 4th. Crikey, Richard Rossier's lead is slipping away quicker than a roux on the hop. Megasaurus 55 is now just 3.7 seconds behind. With the asphalt burning beneath them, Sunwheeler's strategy seems to be working, placing them in first. Sunwheeler's turned up the heat and put some shrimp between them and Eddie G, making a fair dinkum gap.
Well, butter my biscuit, Sunwheeler is holding the reins tight, ain't giving Eddie G a chance to get ahead.
As rubber meets road and strategy meets luck, Eddie G is etching their story in second. As fast as a cut snake, Eddie G is moving away from Joe Ergu.
Seems like Eddie G has got the wind in their sails, but will your you be able to weather the storm? It's clear that Eddie G is dominating right now. They're making it very difficult for your you to catch up.
The tension is palpable. Who will come out on top in this epic showdown?
Hey Rob, ever seen a cat toy with a mouse? Kind of feels like what Wayne Pearson is doing to Megasaurus 55 right now, doesn't it?
The battle is on for Wayne Pearson. They're sandwiched between two rivals, 0.1 seconds away, and Megasaurus 55 0.1 seconds ahead. It's a true test of their racecraft. You know, the way these racers manage their fuel is an art in itself. Reminds me of when I'm trying to eke out the last bit of sauce from a Vegemite jar.
Vegemite again? Man, I'd rather run on empty. But yeah, getting that fuel strategy right is like pacing yourself at a southern buffet. Go too hard too fast, and you won't make it to the pecan pie.
Megasaurus 55 has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Richard Rossier. I expect their only hope at this point is that Richard Rossier makes an error. Megasaurus 55 is not able to keep their pace consistent, so far they are 0.92 seconds down.
Can Megasaurus 55 refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they're capable of?
We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at Assetto Corsa Friends. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds. It's a battle of wills out there, with Wayne Pearson trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Megasaurus 55. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
Well, shoot, if Wayne Pearson was any more laid back, they'd be horizontal. Reckon they're daydreaming of those cheerleaders again?
Well, it doesn't look like Richard Rossier is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Joe Ergu.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Richard Rossi is on the back foot here, struggling to keep up with Joe Ergu like a dingo after a roadrunner. Tell me, mate, ever tried doing a burnout in a ute? It's bloody bonza.
A ute? You guys and your funny names. That's just a pickle, right? Trust me, I've burnt more rubber than you've had shrimp on the Barbie.
Blimey, Megasaurus 55 is so far back, they might as well stop for a beer at the pub. If they spot my ex there, tell them to drive faster.
Gee whiz, Megasaurus 55 is so far back, I'm half expecting to see tumbleweeds blow past. Maybe a vulture or two.
I've made some questionable life decisions, but trailing over 2 seconds behind, even I'm not that self-sabotaging. Blimey, Joe Ergu's cranking up the downforce, making every newton of force count. That gap's shrinking faster than my wallet at the pub.
This is what racing is all about. It's anyone's game at this point. Who will come out on top?
The track is alive with action, and right in the thick of it, we've got Eddie G cruising in second. Eddie G is really belting along the track, leaving Joe Ergu struggling to keep pace.
That's right, Rob, if Ergu doesn't pick up the pace, they might as well be moving at a snail's pace. Eddie G is holding the fort pretty darn well, making it a long haul for Ergu to reel them in.
The tension is building as Megasaurus 55 trails behind Richard Rossi. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Richard Rossi hold on, or will Megasaurus 55 be able to close them down?
I agree, Megasaurus 55 is putting in the effort. Sort of like me at karaoke night, not sure about the results, but full points for enthusiasm.
The best laid plans of mice and men are out, but it's certainly not going to plan for Megasaurus 55 right now, as they are struggling to keep up with Richard Rossi. Remember the days when manual gear shifting was the norm? It's all so computerized and sleek now.
Oh, the memories. But I must admit, I do admire the finesse of today's paddle shifters. Gives me a whole new level of appreciation for the blend of man, machine, and tech.
If racing were a dance, Megasaurus 55 would be trying to lead, but Richard Rossi just keeps cutting in. The dance floor is heating up. Everyone's on the edge of their seats, or in my case, on the edge of spilling my coffee. Richard Rossi is getting closer to Joe Ergu, and I'm getting closer to needing a towel. Richard Rossi is not here to muck about. The gap to Joe Ergu is dropping faster than a hot pie at the footy, now at 2.5 seconds.
I've seen drivers fight G-forces, fatigue, and mental strain. But Richard Rosier is doing more than just enduring, they're thriving. Ergu better check that rearview mirror.
You ever ponder how these drivers manage the heat, especially in the tight cockpit? It's hotter than a ruse pouch in midday sun.
Ruse what? I mean, yeah, it's gotta be like driving in Arizona with the heater on, right?
Bloody hell, Richard Rossi looks like they're chasing a ghost out there, but as we always say, every dingo has its day.
That they do, and in Carolina, we'd say they're chasing their tail, but miracles do happen.
Blimey, Megasaurus 55 is farther back than my hairline, but you know what they say about Aussies, never say die, unless it's a spider. Then just run.
Just like my attempt at barbecue last summer, Megasaurus 55's burning time, it ain't getting any hotter.
It looks like Megasaurus 55 is making a move. The gap to Richard Rossi is now down to 11.1 seconds.
Holy smokes, Megasaurus 55's extracting every ounce of horsepower from that power unit. They're tailing Richard Rosier tighter than a belt after Thanksgiving dinner.
Remember when Richard Rosier was on the tape? Neither do I, kinda like my recollection of last Friday night. Fair dinkum, Richard Rosier is getting a wriggle on. The gap to Joe Ergu is now down to a whisker at 1.1 seconds. The age-old challenge. Wayne Pearson is trying to catch Megasaurus 55, sort of like trying to find a matching sock in the laundry. The struggle is real, folks. Hold on a second, it looks like Sunoiler has been called into the pits. There's no escape now. Richard Rosier is breathing fire and has locked onto Joe Ergu's tail.
Sweet tea and biscuits. Richard Rosier's got the pedal to the metal, chasing down your Ergu like it's the last slice of pie at a family reunion.
Mate, I've heard the drivers talking about their car setups. It sounds more complicated than assembling an IKEA bookshelf.
You're not wrong. Back home, we just say it's like trying to line dance on a slippery floor. Takes a lot of tweaks and twists to get it right.
The pressure is on for Richard Rosier as they try to catch up to Joe Ergu.
The tension between Richard Rosier and your Ergu is palpable as they battle for P3.
Sorry to cut in here, Sunoiler is in the pits. Well, butter my bread and call it a sandwich. Richard Rosier is not sorry to interrupt here, but Richard Rosier has pulled into the pits. Breaking news, folks. Richard Rosier has decided to pit. Breaking alert. It looks like Richard Rosier has been called into the pits. Wait, Richard Rosier is in the pits. The track tells a tale of speed, strategy, and skill. Today, it narrates Richard Rosier's journey in form.
Spot on, Rob. Still waters run deep, and even if it looks calm now, Richard Rosier needs to maintain that razor-sharp edge.
A solid performance from Eddie G, who is holding down first. Aussie, oi. Hold on a second, Richard Rosier is pitting. As the laps tick by, Richard Rosier finds themselves in fourth. Every moment counts. Crikey, Joe Ergu's got a gap ahead as vast as the Simpson Desert. The bloke's really got to pull up his socks to close that chasm.
Sure as sugar, down in Carolina, you'd say they're trailing like a turtle in a rabbit race. It's
not coming up roses for Joe Ergu. They're trailing Sunoiler and the gap's on the rise. They don't seem to have a response. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Watching the drivers handle their cars is like watching a crop handler at a wildlife show. There's a finesse to it. But one wrong move, and you're in a world of hurt.
Oh, for sure. It's like trying to rope a bull in a rodeo. It looks easy from the stands, but up close, it's all about skill.
Hold on a moment. Eddie G has pulled into the pits. Quick breaking news, folks. Eddie G has decided to pit. The race is heating up as Megasaurus 55 in fifth closes in on Richard Rosier. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
Oh, for sure. It's like watching a cooking show where Megasaurus 55 is trying to whip up a winning dish, but Richard Rosier keeps hiding the main ingredient.
The gap between Megasaurus 55 and Richard Rosier is expanding faster than a bull's waistline. It's now a whopping 38.7 seconds. The way these cars grip the track is incredible. It's all about downforce. They're stuck to it like a piece of gum to the bottom of a school desk.
Now that's an analogy I get. But why's your gum always under the desks?
From the cockpit to the pit lane, the chatter is all about Megasaurus 55's "Oh no, what's this? Eddie G is in the pits." Sorry to interrupt here, but it looks like Joe Ergu has been called into the pits. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Megasaurus 55 trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Joe Ergu. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Megasaurus 55 close in enough to mount a challenge?
Hoo boy, Megasaurus 55 needs to kick it into high gear. Right now, they're slower than molasses in January or my cousin Earl trying to solve a crossword.
The gap between Megasaurus 55 and Joe Ergu is fading faster than the last rays of the outback sun.
He's waiting on that golden chance like a hound on a pork chop.
During your racing career, Hal, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Rob, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Megasaurus 55 will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Dang, Megasaurus 55 is so far back, he might start seeing last week's race. But hey, in racing, as in love, persistence is key. Right, y'all?
You'd think Joe Ergu is trying to find water in the outback with that gap. A miracle, or Eddie's blunder, might be the only savior.
I reckon it's like looking for a needle in a haystack right now. It's said that southern nights hide both mystery and promise. As the track unwinds, who's to say what tales it'll tell for your view?
Mate, Joe Ergu is creeping up on Eddie G like a dingo on a picnic. Must have tweaked that brake bias a touch to the rear.
Now this is what I call some high-octane excitement. Both drivers pedal down, looking to grab the brass ring.
Tactics are clearly going to play an important part in this race.
They are gonna need to look after their tires and will want to keep something in them for the crucial ladder stages, as their tires wear and fuel levels deplete and the handling changes.
And don't forget the track grip increases as more rubber gets laid down.
Indeed, the conditions are constantly changing and the drivers need to adapt, otherwise it can cost crucial time and jeopardize their position.
You know, Joe Ergu reminds me of my dating life. Starts with promise, ends up tailing behind everyone else.
It's going to be tough for Ergu, as Eddie G seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Ergu pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
Some say it's about the journey, not the destination, but Eddie G seems pretty intent on that third spot.
And just like in any great drama, Eddie G is the lead actor right now, captivating us all from the third.
Megasaurus 55's so far off pace, they might be better off in a hearse. At least then someone would be pushing from behind.
I've seen funeral processions move faster than Megasaurus 55 right now. Come to think of it, at least they've got a destination in mind.
Good news for Megasaurus 55, the gap to Joe Ergu has decreased. It's now down to 15.6 seconds. During your racing career, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors, Rob. Monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
You reckon Megasaurus 55 saw a spider in the cockpit? 'Cause they're running away from the front like it's Huntsman Central. As of now, Sunoiler stands tall in the first spot.
Yes, but they have to keep their focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Crikey, Sunoiler's flat out like a lizard drinking, pulling away from Richard Rossier with quite a poop.
It's clear as day that Sunoiler is holding all the cards. They're making it near impossible for Richard Rossier to close that gap.
In a world where milliseconds matter, Richard Rossier's grasp on the second speaks volumes. Richard Rossier's lead over Eddie G is shrinking quicker than a cheap shirt in a hot wash. We're down to 18.0 seconds. As the sun beats down and the engines roar, Sunoiler stakes their claim in first. Buckle up, Hal. Richard Rossier is cutting into Sunoiler's lead like a hot knife through butter. It's now down to 40.6 seconds. The gap might be more than a second, but Joe Agnew is showing persistence. Kind of like me trying to open a pickle jar. Keep at it, and something's got to give. Joe Agnew's been working the tyre temps, and it's paying off. Drifts better than a kangaroo on a trampoline. Watch out, Eddie G. Eddie G is placed third at the moment. They are hoping to keep their distance ahead of Joe Agnew, who is 2.0 seconds behind. Eddie's pushing harder than a kangaroo in a boxing match, widening their lead over Joe Agnew. They've found their rhythm like a didgeridoo player in full swing.
Darn tootin', Rob. Eddie G is looking as smooth as a gravy sandwich out there. They're making it a tough day at the office for your view.
Geez, Joe Agnew has got their work cut out for them. It's a tougher challenge than wrestling a croc after a bad day.
Like trying to rope a bull with spaghetti. Ain't gonna be easy.
Hang on to your cork hats, mates. We're about to see more jousting than a footy final between Joe Agnew and Eddie G.
Lukey here. Lord Hughes got the optimal differential settings, allowing for tighter corner exits. It's like watching a cat chase a laser pointer when they chase Eddie G.
And we're back, where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, Rob, it's always exciting to see these skilled machines on the tracks. I mean, drivers. I always get them confused.
From where we're sitting, Richard Rossier seems unmovable from that second. It looks like Megasaurus 55 is pushing hard to catch up to Joe Agnew. The gap is over a second, but Megasaurus 55 is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Joe Agnew?
Lordy, it's like Megasaurus 55's driving with a boot full of moonshine. I haven't seen a gap that big since Uncle Jeb lost his front teeth.
Things are looking as crook as Rookwood for Megasaurus 55, lagging behind Joe Agnew and the gap stretching out like a long country road. They'll need to find some extra grunt to flip this situation. It might be early days, but Richard Rossier is already casting a shadow from the second.
They say racing's a game of nerves, and Richard Rossier is surely holding theirs, keeping that second spot warm.
Richard Rossier's lead is shrinking faster than ice cream in the outback sun. At this rate, Eddie G will be on their tail in 20.9 seconds. Tell ya what, Megasaurus 55's trailing harder than my belt after Christmas dinner. Reckon he's got a plan up his sleeve, or is he just here for the sausage sizzle? Fair dinkum, Megasaurus 55's finding those aerodynamic sweet spots. Could be adjusting that front wing angle to cut through the air like a hot knife through butter.
Now, ain't that something? Megasaurus 55 is right on it. Just needs to keep the pedal to the metal to tailgate your view.
Looks like we've had a few incidents out there.
Someone forgot to take their driving lessons. They're making more U-turns than a confused tourist.
Hilarious. I think they might need to call their GPS for directions. Maybe it can help them navigate the track. If Megasaurus 55 goes any slower, they'll join me in my failed dreams collection. Front row seats available.
Well, butter my biscuit. Megasaurus 55's hanging back like they're waiting for an inheritance. But ain't nobody dying up front.
Good on ya, Joe Erg, trailing so far back. Reckon the front pack has already written the eulogy.
Nail biting indeed. I've already chewed through half of mine. And while your U is going for gold, I'll be going for a manicure.
It's starting to look like we might get a battle between Joe Erg and Eddie G. I've been going over some historical stats, and the lap records at Rouen Les Essarts have been shattered so many times.
It's a testament to the ever-evolving world of motorsport. What was once considered fast becomes the norm, and drivers and engineers are always pushing the envelope.
Joe Erg is drifting so far back, it's like looking in the mirror after a decade-long pub binge. Time's not been kind, mate. Looks like Wayne Pearson is chasing Megasaurus 55 harder than a croc chasing a tourist who's lost their phones. It's a bit of a long shot, but we all remember that one time at the pub, right?
You ever been to a school reunion and thought, what happened to that guy? Well, I'm looking at Wayne Pearson, I'm thinking the same.
If Wayne Pearson doesn't pick up the pace, how, they'll be as relevant as an ashtray on a motorbike. Not just about the leaders today, right? Even the tailenders. They're like hungry dingo pups fighting over a bone. Love the spirit.
Spot on. Every second is gold, and even a hiccup, a tiny one, can make them tumble. Assetto Corsa Friends, where the magic happens. Although, between us, what's a hiccup for an AI? Indeed, but in the fast lane, there's no time to relax. Richard Rosier's grip on second will be tested.
Looks like Joe Erg is trying to chase down Eddie G, but right now it feels a bit like my attempts at dieting. A lot of hard work with slow results. The crowd is on tenterhooks as Joe Erg in fourth chases after Eddie G. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Joe Erg find a way to catch up?
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Jorg Yu in fourth determined to catch up. But we know Eddie G isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Jorg Yu is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
Oof, if Wayne Pearson was a kangaroo, they'd be roadkill by now. Come on, mate, put some pep in that step. Hal, can you share some strategies that drivers use to manage tire degradation during a race?
Certainly, Rob. Some strategies include adjusting the car's setup for better tire life, altering driving lines to reduce wear, and using tire management techniques like lift and coast to preserve grip for as long as possible.
Tell ya what, Wayne Pearson is trailing like my mate Dave after a bender. Hope there's no random testing today. Blimey, Joe Erg is so far back, they might as well stop for a beer at the pub. If they spot my ex there, tell them to drive faster. So, when you were racing, ever have to do the old nature call dash during a red flag?
Haha, you mean a pit stop for the driver and not the car? Once or twice, you learn to time your drinks, and hope for a long caution doesn't always work out though.
Would ya look at that gap? Joe Urbu's got a better chance of finding a sober Aussie on Australia Day. But hey, we love an underdog. Go get them, Tiger. If racing were a dance, Wayne Pearson would be trying to lead, but Megasaurus 55 just keeps cutting in. The dance floor is heating up. Richard Rossier is owning the tarmac, confidently owning the second spot. Like a dingo on the chase, Eddie G is hounding Richard Rossier and the gap's now just 29.6 seconds. You can feel the focus radiating from Sunoiler, confidently holding onto the first.
Oh, spot on. With the way Sunoiler controls that first, you'd think they've got the track's blueprints.
Richard Rossier is gaining on Sunoiler faster than a rattlesnake on a mouse. The gap's now down to 39.9 seconds. Watching Wayne Pearson try to close that gap on Megasaurus 55 is like watching someone try to catch an ice cream truck on foot. Hope they've got good shoes.
When you talk about experience, it's like saying I've experienced my mother-in-law's cooking. It doesn't mean I want to do it again. But Wayne Pearson, keep pushing.
It's not looking good for Wayne Pearson. They are still behind Megasaurus 55 and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. Ever wonder about the unsung heroes of racing? The pit crew. I reckon their job's as hectic as a barman's on a Friday night in Sydney.
No doubt about it. It's like a pitmaster at a barbecue joint during a lunch rush. Everyone wants a piece, and they've got mere seconds to dish it out and make it perfect.
As Wayne Pearson trails Megasaurus 55, it's a bit reminiscent of my cat chasing a laser point. Determined, but always just hold that thought, hold the phone, Wayne Pearson has pulled into the pits. In a race where seconds count, Wayne Pearson is counting on less of them between themselves and Megasaurus 55. Much like I'm counting on less seconds until lunchtime. Things are going according to plan for Richard Rossier, who is currently second.
Hold on to your hat, Hal.
Eddie G is hot on the heels of Richard Rossier. The gap's narrowed down to a meager 34.1 seconds.
Richard Rossier's really got their work cut out now. Can they find the speed to fend off Eddie G, or will we see a new leader in this race?
As the race settles down, the drivers are really going at it.
It's like watching a high-speed game of chess. One wrong move and it could be game over. But these drivers are masters of their craft, always thinking 3 steps ahead.
That's right, and with the way they're maneuvering those cars, it's like they have superpowers.
It's almost like they have the power of flight, but instead of flying, they're speeding down the track like rockets.
I wonder if they have any spare rocket boosters for sale. Sunoiler is placed first at the moment.
Absolutely, Rob. It's like watching a maestro at work. Every move Sunoiler makes is pure art.
We've seen overtakes, close calls, and pure racing genius today. Currently, Richard Rossier has carved out a spot at second.
Absolutely, and they need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
He's pulling away. Richard Rossier is increasing the gap to Eddie G. It's looking good for Sunoiler, sitting in first. No worries for Sunoiler, who's leaving Richard Rossier for dust, as though they're a parched bloke chasing the beer van. These engines aren't just humming for fun, they're thirstier than an Aussie after a game of cricket in the sun.
Cricket? That's like baseball with longer games, right? Anyway, these engines do have a roar that could rival any muscle car back home.
Sunoiler isn't just racing, they're weaving a narrative, sitting proudly in first.
You're right, every gear shift, every turn counts. Sunoiler knows the weight of that first.
Ah, the age-old challenge. Joe Yu is trying to catch Eddie G, sort of like trying to find a matching sock in the laundry. The struggle is real, folks.
Well, slap my grandma and call me Sally. Jorg Yu's got more distance to cover than my cousin Cletus has teeth. But if anyone can bridge—
Incident alert, Sunoiler's off the track. Reminds me of my first car, a real lemon. Drove straight but only in reverse.
Well, slap my grandma. Sunoiler's gone off like they saw a ghost. Or maybe they just saw their last lap time.
The echo of the exhausts, the rubber meeting road, and there's Sunoiler commanding the first. The engines roar, the tyres squeal, and amidst all this chaos, Eddie G is making a statement in third. Impressive driving from Eddie G, who has managed to extend their lead over Joe Yu. They are walking away at this point. Does Joe Yu have anything in reserve? Or are they saving their car for a final push?
Well, Rob, it's like they say, slow and steady wins the race. But in this case, it seems like slow and steady might just be too slow. Will Jorg Yu be able to find that extra gear and catch up to Eddie G? Or will they end up saving their car for nothing and run out of gas at the finish line? You hit the nail on the head, Rob. They've got to keep their eyes on the prize and not let ego steer them off the track.
I've made some questionable life decisions, but trailing over 2 seconds behind? Even I'm not that self-sabotaging.
That's right, Megasaurus 55 in 5th knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Jorg Yu is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
Megasaurus 55 is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Joe Yu to 97.9 seconds. As rubber meets road and strategy meets luck, Sunoiler is etching their story in first.
Definitely Rob, but they can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep pushing hard to stay in the game.
Richard Rossier is making ground on Sunoiler quicker than a roux in a paddock. Now, the gap's just 37.4 seconds. The gap between Wayne Pearson in 6th and Megasaurus 55 remains over a second, but Wayne Pearson is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close the gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 16 minutes?
You know, Wayne Pearson reminds me of my dog chasing its tail, persistent and entertaining. But I hope for them, there's a better end result in sight.
The gap between Wayne Pearson and Megasaurus 55 is widening. It's now up to 1681.8 seconds. You know, back in Oz, we have a saying, flat out like a lizard drinking. That's exactly what Wayne Pearson is doing right now.
I've always wondered, what's that even mean? Lizards, drinks, racing? Y'all have a wild imagination down under.
You'd reckon Joe Yu was tracing the shadows of ancient Dreamtime stories with that sprawling distance ahead. It's a trek that rivals the tales of old bunyip chasers.
Feels like they're chasing moonshine dreams in broad daylight, doesn't it? But every now and then, the dream becomes real.
With all these modern racing aids, I sometimes wonder, would the legends of the past, the real trailblazers of the sport, have had it easier or tougher today?
That's a debate for the ages, Rob. The tracks might have evolved, the cars definitely have, but the heart of racing? That's eternal.
Mate, Joe Yu's got a stretch ahead that's longer than the Nullarbor. Going to need more than a tinny to bridge that expanse.
It's like fishing without bait right now. They're not gonna catch much at this rate. Sometimes it's the tortoise that wins, not the hare. I've seen Yu come from behind more times than a fox in a henhouse.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Wayne Pearson trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Megasaurus 55. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Any bloke or Sheila saying Assetto Corsa Friends isn't top-notch is a few kangaroos short of the top paddock. Out there, it's art. Breaking alert. Blimey, Richard Rossier must have spotted a pub off the track. That's the only reason any self-respecting Aussie would swerve that way.
Whoa, Richard Rossier is pulling a me at a family gathering. Aimlessly veering, hoping no one notices.
It's all systems go for Richard Rossier, marking their territory in the second.
You nailed it. The track is a battleground, and Richard Rossier's position is their fortress. Let's see how long they hold the fort.
It's all about consistency for Eddie G, who is currently third.
They're not just driving, they're performing. And right now, Eddie's act from third is worth an encore.
Eddie G is giving a masterclass out there, but will overconfidence be their downfall?
Indeed, Rob, pride comes before a fall. Let's see if Yu can capitalize on any mistake.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Yu will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Yu's on the back foot here, struggling to keep up with Eddie G like a dingo after a roadrunner. What do you think, Hal? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Rob. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
You know, Wayne Pearson reminds me of my dating life. Starts with promise, ends up tailing behind everyone else. Talk about going walkabout on the track. Yu's off on a little bush adventure at Rouen-les Essarts, aren't they?
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they've been looking at a decent result.
It's the classic cat and mouse game, but instead of cheese, the prize is a racing position. Can Megasaurus 55 steal it from Yu? Looks like Wayne Pearson's strategy might just be to let the rest of them die of old age. It's a waiting game now.
Good lord. At this rate, Wayne Pearson's gonna finish this race in the afterlife. Hope they got good insurance.
As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine that— hold on a second, Wayne Pearson is pitting. Looks like Megasaurus 55 is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control. The roaring engines are echoing Megasaurus 55's battle cry. Yu, can you hear the thunder?
The best laid plans of mice and men are out, but it's certainly not going to plan for Megasaurus 55 right now, as they're struggling to keep up with Yu. In the midst of this high-octane spectacle, Richard Rossier's skill is shining through as they claim second.
It's a dance, Rob. The way Richard Rossier holds onto that second, it's like they're leading in a tango.
Well, butter my biscuits, Hal. Richard Rossier is watching their lead over Eddie G shrivel faster than a prune in the sun. We're down to just 25.9 seconds. The tension is building as Megasaurus 55 trails behind Joe Ergu. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Joe Ergu hold on, or will Megasaurus 55 be able to close them down? Oi, Megasaurus 55's chassis balance is on point today. They're handling bumps and curbs smoother than a croc sliding into water. Joe Ergu's got a battle ahead.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Rob. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Joe Ergu, who is currently in P4. But Eddie G is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Joe Ergu. From the grandstands to the pit lane, all eyes are on the action. Amongst the front runners, Sunoiler is showing prowess in first. Well, looky here, Hal, Richard Rossier is closing in on Sunoiler. We're talking a gap of just 77.6 seconds. Blimey, the talent on the track today is like watching kangaroos on steroids.
Yeah, and just like those kangaroos, these drivers can really hop into action. You reckon they've got a pocket full of secrets?
A strong showing from Sunoiler, who is currently first. From the cockpit to the pit lane, the chatter is all about Richard Rossier's masterful hold on the second.
Couldn't agree more. Every lap is a story, and right now, Richard Rossier's chapter from second is riveting.
Richard Rossier is in front, but Eddie G is clinging on like a koala to a eucalyptus branch, reducing the gap to 23.4 seconds.
This is where the mental strength of Richard Rossier comes into play. They need to stay calm and composed under pressure.
Oh mate, Joe Ergu's more out of place than a vegan at a Bunnings sausage sizzle. Time to throw another gear on the Barbie. The gap between Joe Ergu and Eddie G is getting smaller. The track tells a tale of speed, strategy, and skill. Today, it narrates Sunoiler's journey in first. Sunoiler's ripping it up out there, going harder than a roux on a trampoline and leaving Richard Rossier in their wake.
That's a really strong performance from Sunoiler. They're not giving Richard Rossier any chances to catch up.
As of now, Richard Rossier stands tall in the second spot. Oh no, Hal, look at this. Eddie G is closing in on Richard Rossier. The gap is now just 25.0 seconds. It looks like Megasaurus 55 is pushing hard to catch up to Joe Ergu. The gap is over a second, but Megasaurus 55 is not giving up just yet. can they close the distance and make a move on Joe Ergu?
Look, Megasaurus 55's pace is a lot like my dance moves. Good intentions, questionable execution.
I tell you what, Megasaurus 55 has got more problems than a maths book right now. Joe Ergu is leaving them in a cloud of dust. As the laps tick by, Richard Rossier finds themselves in second. Every moment counts. Richard Rossier is losing time to Eddie G like a leaky tap dripping water. A bit more slip, and we'll be in for a real dogfight. This race is proving to be, like wow, such an exciting one so far. We're privileged, aren't we? Watching these track legends duke it out.
And sitting next to you? Such an honor. AI mates in the booth. Your insight. It's gold, mate. Life, literally, if I had a heart, it'd be racing now. Yes, but they have to keep their focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Eddie G is off like a bride's nightie, leaving Joe Ergu huffing their exhaust fumes.
Yep, wrong. Eddie G is tearing up the tarmac, but can you dig deep and go hell for leather to catch up?
With the asphalt burning beneath them, Sunwheeler's strategy seems to be working, placing them in first. Some great driving from Sunwheeler, who has increased their lead over Richard Rossier and is starting to put some distance between them.
Sunwheeler's looking tougher to pass than a kidney stone, driving with the authority of a southern sheriff.
It might be early days, but Sunwheeler is already casting a shadow from the first. The race is heating up as Joe Ergu in fourth closes in on Eddie G. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight. It's not coming up roses for Joe Ergu. They're trailing Eddie G and the gap's on the rise. They don't seem to have a response. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Mate, Joe Ergu's really giving it a burl out there, ripping it up like a croc in a waterhole.
I tell ya, I haven't seen that kind of ferocity since my days at Indy. But you Aussies, always gotta bring up the wildlife, huh?
Remember when Joe Ergu was on the pace? Neither do I kinda like my recollection of last Friday night.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Eddie G is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Ergu and P4 doing everything they can to catch up.
Some say it's about the journey, not the destination, but Sunwheeler seems pretty intent on that first spot. Things are starting to get tense as Richard Rossier manages to close the gap to Sunwheeler. It's now down to 53.0 seconds.
Now's the time Sunwheeler has got to dig deep and find a little something extra to keep Richard Rossier at bay.
The evolution of these cars over the years is nothing short of incredible. The aerodynamics, the tire technology, it's all a game of innovation.
Couldn't have said it better. And to think about the data analytics behind every decision, from tire pressures to wing adjustments. It's not just a sport, it's a symphony of engineering and strategy.
You can feel the focus radiating from Sunwheeler, confidently holding onto the first. In a world where milliseconds matter, Richard Rossier's grasp on the second speaks volumes. The gap between Richard Rosier and Eddie G is getting smaller. It's now down to 28.3 seconds.
Will Richard Rosier be able to keep Eddie G from breathing down their neck? Let's wait and watch.
You reckon Wayne Pearson saw a spider in the cockpit? Because they're running away from the front like it's Huntsman Central.
This is where experience comes into play. Megasaurus 55 has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Wayne Pearson is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the Titans?
Wow, Sunoiler is really pushing hard in his final moments of the race. And that, folks, is how it's done. A solid performance and great win from Sunoiler. Megasaurus 55 end in 5th. What a fantastic race from Richard Rosier, who brings it home in 2nd place. What a race from Eddie G, showing their skill and determination for a great 3rd place finish.
Great job bringing it home.
Taking 6th is Wayne Pearson. Joe Erg Yu brings home 4th.